Hi, I'm Dave. Welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm going to look at this Carrera Plymouth Roadrunner street car. So here we are, straight to the turntable with this car. This is Carrera car number 30291, which is a Plymouth Roadrunner street version. Now this car is quite rare. I think this is the only street version they made of the Plymouth Roadrunner mould, and it is neither a Carrera analogue car nor a properly Carrera D132 car. It's a Pro X digital car. We'll get to that a bit more in a minute. But I wanted to show you this car up close straight away because it's quite a unique thing. As I say, it's the only street car livery they've done. It has quite a lot of detail, as you'd expect. This car was made September 2007. An era when Carrera still didn't have a bad name for tyres. So as you can see, they still have tyre branding from Goodyear on their tyres, like they did with the black Charger street car that I did a video on recently. I'll put a link somewhere for that. So I got this car at UK Slotfest really as a companion to that, because there's no point having one Carrera muscle car street car. There's no point. You need at least two. So as I saw this on a table, and I hadn't seen one before, I really did have to pick it up. It's got all the same lovely details. They're a different slot mag to the ones that are on the Charger. Similar, but not identical. So Carrera were obviously experimenting through the time with different wheel designs and things. Everything else about this car in terms of levels of trim and so on are exactly the same as all of the Roadrunners that they do as NAS cars or USAC cars, with the exception of course that the air vents they put on the USAC race cars are door mirrors on the street car version. So this is probably the only one that came with door mirrors. I should probably take those off and keep them separately. They're probably quite a rare thing in their own right. Anyway, right, this is the top. The next most interesting thing is underneath. So let's get this off here and put it on the workbench and look underneath. It's curious. So looking at this car a bit more closely, here is a NASCAR Plymouth Roadrunner. As you can see, beyond the livery and the air vents, it is exactly the same mould. Different treatment on the back phalanx. That's about it really. Now, where this car varies from a lot of other Carrera cars you might have seen before is underneath. Now this is a bizarre contraption. Now I said before, this is a Pro X car. Now Pro X is a very short-lived version of digital. It's Carrera Digital version 1, I suppose. It launched in 2004 and terminated in 2006 because there was a patent dispute, and they replaced it with what we know as Carrera Digital today. They did produce backwardly compatible Carrera Digital cars with the Pro X system up until 2009, which is what they call the older style Carrera Digital chips that we know. And then that ended as well. So there was some backward compatibility. So this car has a chip in it. You can see there is a sensor and the switch is in a slightly odd place. So you can switch this car back over to being an analog car and run it in analog mode, which is what I will do. Now the other thing you will have noticed here is this ridiculous guide and magnet system. So the guide is set a long way back, and I mean a long way back. That's where the guide is on the current version of a NASCAR, right at the front, as we know, because the distance between there and the rear wheels, the longer the better handling car you get. To put a guide behind the front axle and shorten that triangle by that much is the stuff of madness, to be honest. So yes, it's a very odd guide. It's a very long guide, and it has this extra piece as a mechanism which fixes to where this magnet is, and the magnet moves as the guide moves, and there's a very crude spring either side just to push it back to center. Now, this was a terrible system. Everybody hated it, and they changed it. But for a short while, this is how it was. So instead of the big internal magnet that you get on more modern Carrera cars and this rear magnet, you get just the rear magnet and this movable one. Now, I think the idea was probably clever, but the execution of it was fairly poor. It doesn't really help the guide move. All the things we know about a guide, about where it should be and how freely it should move, this just disobeys all of it. So it's pretty sure that's why it was fairly short-lived. If I go back to the old pre-everything Carrera slot car, this is the street car Charger, you can see in the very early version the guide was right at the front, as it is in the later one. This short-lived departure is exactly that, and thankfully that's the case. In terms of the rear of the chassis design, this shares a lot up until this point with the older style here. So this intermediate one, they changed this middle section and the guide. But again, I mean, all of these screws line up. The bodies themselves are interchangeable. The outline of the chassis is the same regardless. So it could all be swapped out. And as with the Charger, the Roadrunner has good tyres. I mean, they are a bit hard and a bit old, but they are intact. And they are reasonably round. There's a tiny flat spot on them. I don't imagine they have a huge amount of grip, but I'm going to take the back magnet out anyway. So I think once I've I'll give them a little bit of a sand. I might put a little bit of sewing machine oil on them and leave them just to soften the rubber back up slightly. I'll see how I go. Next thing to do really is take the top off and let you see the humongous Pro X chip that's inside this car. As you can see, the inside of this, as I say, the body remains really unchanged throughout the years. This is all good stuff. It's rattly. It's a Carrera. A bit of foil tape in there would sort some of that out. But here, look at that massive chip. This is, for a start, huge. It's fairly high up in terms of centre of gravity. I mean, you'll know the current Carrera chips are buried right in the bottom of the chassis. And it's massively complicated. It wraps around the whole thing. There's a screw here with a bracket. There's another little piece of plastic underneath there that holds the switch in place, and it must have cost a fortune to have them assembled. It's just so many fiddly bits and extra bits, and you know, these wires are all, there's no plugs. And I mean, the guide situation is even more ridiculous once we look inside, because yes, they've done this to get this. But look what they've had to do to the guide. It completely interferes, really, with the axle. So they've had to do some kind of low profile, bizarre setup. I mean, you know, just put it up there. But yeah, I don't know. This is nuts. It really is nuts. But it's a great little car. I'm going to put it back together and we'll take it for a drive. Here we are at the track. I have taken the back magnet out. I did give the rear tyres a bit of a sand, and I just laid a little bit of sewing machine oil onto the tyres and let it soak in for a few minutes. And I think that's probably softened them up enough. We can give it a few laps. And because it's a street car, same old thing really. Put on some tunes and go for a drive. So there we are. It's quite a pleasant drive, although it does handle really strangely when you go around the R1 corners. You can see that guide is fighting, and the car doesn't look natural and flowing as it goes around the corners, the tighter ones, at speed. It won't drift particularly because obviously there's so much spring and magnet in there. So yeah, as a system, I can see why they discontinued it. It didn't work in any way at all really that made the car better to drive than the older system did, that they pretty much went straight back to afterwards. So a short-lived system of guide, a short-lived system of sort of pseudo digital Carrera stuff, and a very much a one-off body. So I'm very pleased with this car. I hope you've been interested in this kind of oddity that's neither before nor after the digital age, but somewhere in between. And I don't know, I might do a few more laps. As always, thanks for taking the time to watch one of my videos. If you liked it, you will find a button specifically for that. Please subscribe to the channel, it's free and it really does help. And if you hit the bell, you'll get a notification the next time I post a video.